Well, out there in YouTube land.
Welcome back.
Today we're going to talk about one of the movies that Tabby and I watched again recently, but it is an amazing film starring Johnny Depp.
Yes, and it follows quite a fun tale, actually.
And that would be The Ninth Gate. Now, for anyone that has not seen this movie, I don't necessarily call it a horror film per se.
No.
It has horror elements. It's more of a supernatural mystery, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, I will say, I would love to have Johnny Depp's job in this movie.
Basically, yeah, he's a guy who hunts down notorious and rare books.
Right, and authenticates them.
And that would be such a fun job.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine looking at all these, like, ancient tomes and, like, being able to tell the fakes from the real, and it'd just be fascinating.
And throughout the movie, like, everybody's libraries and collection and the bookstore.
Yes.
Oh, that bookstore, I would get lost in there for hours.
Oh, it's like, a bibliophile's dream.
Yes. And we are both that.
Yes, we are. So, basically, the story of The Ninth Gate is that you have this amazing bookseller / authenticator.
Right.
Who ends up getting a very specific job, and that is to help a man authenticate his version of what is supposed to be an evil text.
Right, it's supposed to be a text that was written to summon but also enter hell.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes. And then, there's, you get through the movie that there's several other people that have copies and he has to compare them all.
Yes. And
then, it gets into rites of, satanic magic and...
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff, and, Frank Langella makes an amazing villain.
He does. He does, but, there are some twists, there are some turns, there are allies that are...
very unique.
Unique is a good way of putting that. The cinematography for it was actually really, really good.
Yes, and
be honest.
One of the things that struck Tabby and I when we were watching it again was the use of color. You could definitely tell this was a film that was shot in the 90s because they weren't afraid of light and color. And even in what are supposed to be horrific scenes, there's plenty of light and color. Yes,
and there was a very minimal usage of CG, but when it was used, man, was it used well.
It was. It wasn't like, the horrible CGI that is notorious at this point.
When you know for certain that it's computer generated and not much else.
It's pretty bad.
It's bad.
But no, this is, done masterfully. And they really paid attention to detail. Like, there's a scene where Frank Langella is trying to prove that he has now become part of this magical, mystical, whatever, because he did the right in the book, and he is proving that he is untouchable by things tangible on Earth, and so he catches himself on fire.
He does, and we won't tell you what happens per se, but he says that he can't feel the flames or anything else, and it was flawless of a scene.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like somebody is on fire. It does not look like it's CGI.
However, one thing that we caught on in that scene that, honestly, we hadn't really caught on before was when his character falls. He falls down. Johnny Depp's character reaches through the flames to get the book and the images.
Yeah.
So that kind of alludes to what happens in the rest of it.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things that kind of struck us both, and this is kind of a funny, nitpicky thing, but the differences between eyebrows in the 90s versus eyebrows now.
Oh my good lord. Woo!
The main, ally / romantic interest for Johnny Depp in the film has some serious eyebrows.
She does. They're intense.
And, while big eyebrows are in right now, they're in a specific way. These are, classic 1990s,
need a little bit of like shape underneath. Like, I really wanted to just get a hold of her and just shape right underneath that little arch. It was ridiculous. That's all I needed. That's it.
The other thing that Tabby and I really liked was the representation of somebody with a disability in the film, because there is one lady who is in a wheelchair. And what is different in this film versus other films is that even though she's in a wheelchair, she is in a place of power. She is revered. She is looked at as this leading expert on these ancient books. And people respect her with a huge amount of aplomb. And I have not seen a movie where somebody who happens to have a disability be treated in such a way in eons.
Yeah, I can't say that I have either.
And so, totally props to Roman Polanski for that, because that woman is shown as strong and forceful and knowledgeable. And the fact that she happens to be a wheelchair doesn't matter a hill of beans to any of those things.
She owns one of the tomes, but she also has literally had years and years of renown as a historian of the occult. Get like all the occult books.
Yes.
So, I mean, yes, she is, I think, a baroness?
Yeah. But even at that, people tend to side-eye people that have a disability, and nobody in this film does that.
No, they do not.
And there's also, like, a sense of fear of her, which is kind of, and not in a, oh my gosh, she's a disabled fear, but a fear of her power type thing.
Yes.
And it was so distinct that it stood out greatly to us.
It was, a woman in a position of power.
And that's
extreme
really cool.
Power, actually.
And, and especially her not being, like, standing there with a weapon or something. That even made it more, like, cool that because of her personality and because of her ability and innateness, that was her power. Not that she could fight, not that she had these weapons, but the fact of the type of person she was her power, and people feared her for that. That was really cool.
It was respect and fear, because all she did was sit there. And she was very loquacious. She was very proper, but you knew not to fuck with her.
Yeah, and it was flat out cool, and I definitely got to give Polanski props for that, because that was awesome.
Of all the owners of the books that he is authenticating, she had the most presence.
Yes.
Not only as an actress, but as a character.
Yes.
So,
because the other two are owned by men. One, of course, being Frank Langella.
Right.
Which has his own presence. But the third person is almost viewed as being somewhat weak, which is interesting.
The third person was viewed as just a collector. You could tell when they walk up to his house, he was kind of at the end of life, really. Frank Langella, however, he had power through some criminal means.
Yeah. And in fact, like, one of the things that kind of stood out to Tabby and I is we almost wonder if his character wasn't based on a variety of different, like, known, successful businessmen in New York during the, like, 1980s and early 1990s, because his character just stood out to be, like, larger than life. It was really cool.
He had his own building. He had his own penthouse. He could.
I mean, you can see like frames of, like, like the Sears Tower in Chicago and all these, just this idea of this, like, huge billionaire doing this thing, and it was really cool.
And that, I'm like you. I wonder if that was pulled from a variety of sources from what our upper tier is in America.
Yeah. Because, you have the Rockefellers and all this stuff. It was just, you could kind of see, like, little faces and little, like, tidbits here and there of who this character was fashioned after, and kind of created this amalgamation of all these different people. It was really neat.
Really, the cult gathering was, you could not be in it unless you had extreme amounts of money and property and power.
Yeah.
So that followed right into what you consider, like,
You almost kind of get the feeling
of
like the secret societies, like the skulls and things like that. I mean, that was kind of the vibe you got from this.
Like the stereotypical, like what we would, what the common rumors are about all these secret societies and satanic worship and things like that.
Or the Illuminati, that type of thing.
I mean, literally it brought in every element of everything. Yes. But their stereotype, not really their...
Exactly.
Not their reality.
Yeah, and it was just... there's so many things in this film that really give you, like, a sense of popular culture between Europe and America.
And then you brought in the female character, the romantic interest, and she represented kind of everything to do about things like the Salem witch trials and, what inquisitors would have gone after at the time.
So it's if you've not seen it, you definitely should check it out because it's a really well done film, and there are some funny parts, of course, but with me not liking Polanski as a person, his art is really upper tier.
It is, and I'm kind of on that same scale. I can appreciate what he has done, what he has produced, and what the teams of people around him brought forth to that art. And that includes Depp, and that includes everybody else. Yeah. I can respect that. I can enjoy that without really, enjoying the person.
Exactly. So. Because it's one of many films that's just a wonderful film. Yeah, it's an iconic film. And, you can see where John Carpenter got the inspiration for Cigarette Burns doing kind of the same type of thing, this curse thing that was known, but in Cigarette Burns it's a film instead of the book. But you can see where he kind of got inspired by The Ninth Gate to create Cigarette Burns, which is also really cool. If you've not seen the Masters of Horror episode Cigarette Burns, definitely check that out.
Check that one out.
And we'll probably do a video specifically on that at some point. But, The Ninth Gate is just a really wonderful supernatural mystery / fantasy thing.
To me, it was one of those movies that kind of really, where I go back to in my head, because I don't really enjoy a lot of the movies that are being brought out. Yeah. We have, and if you followed us for a while, you know what we're talking about. Yeah. You know what we're talking about.
We are definitely, team older movies.
We are, because it's not just a nostalgia, it was an originality.
Yes, and, with the number of remakes that keep getting made over and over and over again, we are so ecstatic when somebody comes up with something that's original or something that hasn't been done to death that we're just excited about, which is why I'm still very excited to watch the Wendigo movie later this year.
Yeah. Because that is something, I mean, if anybody ever sees this that writes for horror, in the Hollywood genre or in anywhere, pick some creatures that aren't well written. Yes. Like Wendigos.
Or, you could get into, like, some of the Lovecraft stuff, like the Kraken and, all these different things. And there's so many creatures.
And we're not talking about, like, the cheesy sci-fi that we all grab popcorn for
we're talking about, like, actually taking, like, the original mythos of these creatures and, like, doing something with it. Because especially with the ability of special effects now, that's something that can certainly be done. Instead of, like, there's... And I think at this point, most people are probably tired of the glut of superhero movies.
They're great.
They are.
They're in their own class.
But there have been so many of them made. I would like to see, like, a big budget film of some type of supernatural creature.
Or something even within the realm of vampires and ghosts. Make it original. Do not do a remake. No. Quit doing remakes.
And do not keep making movies of the same book over and over again.
And quit turning stuff into a TV series.
Yes.
The movie was great. It doesn't mean it needs a TV series.
No. So there's a little extra rant. So if you've not seen The Ninth Gate, definitely give it a watch. Comment down below with what your favorite, like, Johnny Depp quasi-horror film is.
Yeah, because we have a couple.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ninth Gate's not the only one,
no.
so.
So, till next time.
Bye.